You don't have any wipes or anything.
Good morning, veterans, family members, and distinguished guests. On behalf of the town of West Hartford and a Hayes Village American Legion Post 96, it is my privilege and honor to welcome you to the 2024 Veterans Day ceremony. My name is Heidi Ann Mooney. This is my 6th year of being involved in this ceremony after moving here from California, where I lived for 23 years. I grew up not far from here in Bedford, New York. I was elected by my peers and I volunteer as the post commander of West Hartford American Legion. This is my 3rd year as post commander, and it is rewarding to support veterans in our post and those around town, as it allows me to meet so many interesting Americans. As an organization, the American Legion has been serving our veterans and our community since 1922. And it is open to all military personnel currently on active duty and to all military veterans who have served honorably any time in their lives, even for one day. This is a change from the past. There used to be only certain days and times of service that allowed veterans to join an American Legion post. That barrier lifted some time ago. If you are a veteran here today and you are not a part of our post, I challenge you today to speak to one of us after the ceremony and get involved in the camaraderie the post offers. We also need veterans and town members to serve on the Mayor's Veterans Council. So if that might interest you, please let us know. We gather today to honor and express our deepest gratitude to all the men and women who have served in our armed forces, defending our nation and its values. None who served in a war zone will ever say we are for war or that we want to go to war. But when called to do so, we pack our bag and we follow the orders of our current Commander-in-Chief. I want to also personally thank the families and spouses who often had homes without their loved ones there. I want us to reflect for a moment on all who right now are in the line of duty in many places around the world. Places that are dangerous and scary, places where right next to us we lose our best friend, and that pain never goes away. In my Bible, I keep the name of every Marine, sailor, and soldier who is lost in the line of duty or to suicide that I know. And I try to remember them every time I see their funeral card, their name, or a memento that I have of them in my Bible. In a time where so many people are divided in our town over who is blue, who is red, who has a donkey or an elephant sticker on their car, thanks to Thomas Nast in 1874, who created those characters, one thing remains true. When Americans go to war zones and bullets fly over our heads, with a sound that none of us will ever forget, we all bleed red, white, and blue, and all the rest doesn't matter. We are brothers and sisters in those moments and forever afterwards. Let us all get back to remembering we are American brothers and sisters. Let's care about and love one another. America needs more of that right now. While Memorial Day is a time to remember those who have died in service, Veterans Day, originally called Armistice Day, is a time to celebrate all veterans who answer the call to service. It is always celebrated November 11th, the day after World War I ended in 1918 with a ceasefire agreement that was signed at 11 a.m. In 1954, Congress passed a bill changing World War I's Armistice Day to be called Veterans Day, so that all veterans would be recognized. At this time, I would like to ask Lieutenant Colonel Sean Nolan to offer the invocation. Lieutenant Colonel Nolan is in the U.S. Army Reserves, currently with the 436th Transportation Battalion. Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel, for being here today.
Good morning. Please join me in an attitude of prayer. Holy Father, you have said in your word that there is no greater love than that someone lay down their life for their friends. Today we seek to honor and remember those who have been willing to place themselves in harm's way and endure the hardships that come with military service. We invite you to preside over and bless our gathering today, and we ask this in your mighty name. Amen.
Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel Nolan. Today, our national anthem will be sung by Delia Canary, a junior from Conard High School.
All uniform personnel, our attention. Present, arm.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Order,
Thank you so much, Delia. Zonder Boss will now play a violin solo for you. Zonder is a senior at Xavier High School, an all-boys school in Middletown, Connecticut. He is also a Boy Scout in Troop 146. And not only does he need to get started on his Eagle Scout project soon, or his assistant scoutmaster, Mrs. Mooney, will haunt him down as time is running out because he needs to do it before he turns 18. But she is also very proud of him as he has been working extremely hard to get into West Point and to carry on a family legacy as his older brother went to West Point and is a graduate and is stationed in Germany currently, along with his new sister-in-law, who is also a West Point graduate and is stationed in another part of Germany. And he just found out last night that he got a West Point nomination from Senator Blumenthal. So that's super exciting. Thank you, Zander. Among all the heroes that could be recognized today, I want to pay a special tribute to a generation that has come to be known as the greatest generation. I see Ben Cooper over here, who was an Army medic and helped to liberate Dachau. And are there any other World War II veterans out here today in our audience? The greatest generation, a term coined by journalist Tom Brokaw, refers to the remarkable individuals who grew up during the Great Depression and went on to fight in World War II. These men and women demonstrated extraordinary courage, resilience, and sacrifice, and their legacy is etched in the history of our nation. There are also many here today who were children during World War II, both here in the United States or in other countries. And I want to recognize them and the childhoods that were robbed from them and the pain that they must still have in their hearts. To be a child during World War II was as difficult or more difficult than for the adults. When we think of the greatest generation, we remember the selflessness of those who rushed to enlist after the attack on Pearl Harbor, knowing they faced immense danger, but answering the call of duty without hesitation. We recall the stories of those who endured the hardship of war on distant shores, separated from their families for years, and facing unimaginable challenges. And the young men and women who fought in Afghanistan and in Iraq, who also struggled with these issues, as did those who fought in Korea, Vietnam, Beirut, Somalia, and many other places. Thank you all for your dedication. Sacrifices are not limited to the battlefield. During World War II, here in the United States, many worked tirelessly supporting the war effort in every way they could. They rationed, they saved, and they lived through hardship with unwavering resolve, all for the greater good of their country. As we reflect on their indescribable feats, let us always remember the lessons of the greatest generation are not limited to a bygone era. They remind us of the power of unity, the strength of community, and the importance of selflessness. Their actions set a standard of service and sacrifice to each of us that remains a timeless example of all. On this Veterans Day, let us pay great respect to the indomitable spirit of all veterans who have served our nation. Let us be inspired by their unwavering dedication and commitment to causes that are larger than themselves. Please pledge to carry their legacy forward by working for a better, more peaceful world that isn't divided, but that comes together to find peaceful solutions to live side by side. I want to take you down a path for a moment and share some history about women in the armed services and specifically in the Marines. I served in the Marine Corps as an engineer officer in the 1990s. In 1994, when the Marine Corps opened combat arms jobs to women, I was one of the first 2 females to receive the Engineer Combat Arms MOS, which is a military occupational specialty. With me was Marta, 5 foot 2 inches, and myself at a huge 5 foot 3 inches. We both weighed about 120 pounds. We may not have been the fiercest looking, but you know the saying, don't judge a book by its cover. Marta was Hispanic, she was a Mustang, which meant she was prior enlisted, and she was tough as nails. I learned a lot from her during our 6 months at the basic school in Quantico and our next 6 months at the engineer school. Back in 1993, the Marine Corps and the United States Navy was not ready yet for change to have women in combat arms. There were no women's bathrooms or women's barracks, so they had to put a handwritten sign up on the door of the head, and on one side said WM, which was for Women Marines, and the other side said men, and we would flip it back and forth when we had to use the bathroom. Because I was the only one on an LSD ship back at that time, we all just figured it out together. We didn't really have a system. It was just day by day that we figured it out. Today we are just called Marines. They don't use the term WM, but I didn't really mind that term so much. I was proud of being alongside my M&Ms, as I called the men, the male Marines. Back in 1994, women officers made up only 1% of the Marines. So when I saw another female officer, I was very excited. It was as if I saw a unicorn. When I saw the first Marine female general, it was like seeing Taylor Swift. I was so excited. Since there were no Marine female officers to learn from where I was stationed, instead I learned everything I knew from my male non-commissioned officers and my senior NCOs and my warrant officers. Today, women officers in the Marines make up 4.3% of the service, and women make up 5.1% of our active duty Marine enlisted force. These are very small numbers when you think about it. While women actually became a permanent part of the regular Marines on 12 June of 1948, they'd already proved themselves before that in service in both of the 2 world wars. In the 1970s, a few women Marines served in some combat arms roles, but then they changed that and they pulled these women out again from combat roles until 1993 when they opened them up again. So in the 70s, maybe they really weren't ready yet. When I got my combat arms role, I learned about constructions and explosives, and I was a young engineer officer. Think about that. I was 21. Now we're going to move forward to the 1990s and the early 2000s, and I'm honored to introduce our next speaker today. I got to hear Latoya Fernandez speak this past May at our Post's high school induction dinner, where we honor West Hartford students going into any branch of the service. When another Post member recommended her as our speaker for this year, I agreed that she would be amazing. Latoya is a person who doesn't sit on the sidelines. She is a dynamo and someone that you will want to get to know. I'm going to read you her bio so you know a little bit about her. Latoya joined the Marine Corps in 2005 and stayed into 2009 as an electrician, and she rose to the rank of Lance Corporal. She presently is a member of the West Hartford Board of Education. Latoya is best known as a diversity change agent, an educator, an activist, and a community leader. She's dedicated to teaching students about equity and injustice. Latoya founded Youth Hype, a community-based organization that inspires youth to be civically engaged and self-aware. She uses her platform to support and amplify the youth voice. She is the author of Truth, an empowerment guide for youth and allies, a book that supports students' journey and self-confidence, social issues, and healthy relationships. Latoya works in education, supporting schools to create alternatives to suspension, and cultivate a climate of restorative peace, practice, accountability, and cultural responsiveness. For 13 years, she was a restorative practices change agent and community activist in San Jose, California. She returned home to her home state of Connecticut in 2021. I'm glad that she's here again. And she launched her business as a restorative justice trainer and facilitator. She provides training programs for youth and staff in juvenile detention facilities and DCF group homes. She is the founder of Beyond Circles, a restorative practice consulting space, and was the first diversity, equity, inclusion officer for the city of Norwalk. Please help me welcome Latoya Fernandez.
Good morning, everyone. I am gonna try to get through this without getting too emotional. I've been sitting on the sidelines this time for a few seconds and just filled with so much emotion and gratitude. And here in 2024, as a Black woman in America and a veteran, I can stand before you and say I'm free. And that I can look out in the audience at my Jewish husband, who I love, who's also here and free and safe. And I think about just all of the people that stood up for both of us so that we could be here in love and together today. And so it's overwhelming, you know, because that's what it really means to be a soldier, to be a warrior, to stand up and fight, and to think about the greater good. So I'll get into my speech now, and it's funny, you said I think it was the 1990s, female Marines were 1%, so when I came in the early 2000s, we rose to a big 3% in the Marine Corps, so very, very small numbers, but yeah, don't judge a book by its cover, because we're pretty tough. So today, as we gather to honor our veterans, I'm reminded of how my own journey of service began long before I donned the uniform. Growing up, I was always drawn to serve, whether it was in Girl Scouts or in various volunteer roles in my community. This passion to support and protect the vulnerable was what ultimately led me to the military. And I wanted to do the hardest one and the toughest one, so I joined the Marine Corps. I joined the Marines from that same space in my heart, a place of wanting to give back. The skills that I gained during my time in the Marines were invaluable, and I carry them with me every day. The ability to stay focused on the bigger picture and to see the beauty in living a life of sacrifice for the greater good has been a guiding force in my life. As a woman of faith, I also try to embody this on a spiritual level, as I'm often reminded that my greatest charge is to love my neighbor. That is the message that I hope to leave with all of you today. Last week, our nation held a significant election, and I could feel the anxiety and unease in the air. In those moments, I lean on my inner grounded warrior. Some people are called to be the calm in the storm, and I believe that's my calling. I stood ready to be a rock for my community, reminding my village of the power of our collective strength. While I sensed some sorrow, I also felt a deep hope and motivation, and made me think, wow, what an incredible opportunity we have to come together, to truly reflect on who we are as individuals and as a community, and to open our doors to compassion and empathy. As an educator, I've spent over a decade prioritizing the development of good humans over compliant students. Boundaries are important, but it's our relationships that truly transform spaces. Relationships encourage us to think about how we impact those around us, allowing us to see our interconnectedness as human beings, rather than focusing on what divides us. Relationships make us feel safe enough to share our stories, And it's through sharing that we build inclusion, and not understanding, but understanding. We all long for connection. And though we see disconnection around us, let us resolve to be a force of light. Let's make sure that West Hartford is a village where everyone feels a sense of belonging, is celebrated, and above all, feels safe. One thing about being a warrior or a soldier is that you never stop being one. That calling to support and protect doesn't just fade. As a conversation facilitator and a conflict mediator, I'm here to hold space for healing conversations and to create safe spaces for healthy discourse. So if you're interested in learning more about that, please don't hesitate to reach out. Now, I do want to share a scripture from the book of Luke, chapter 6. And it says, "But to you who are listening, I say, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, pray for those who mistreat you. If someone slaps you on one cheek, turn to them the other also. If someone takes your coat, do not withhold your shirt from them. Give to everyone who asks you, and if anyone takes what belongs to you, do not demand it back. Do to others as you would have them do to you. If you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners love those who love them. And if you do good to those who are good to you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners do that. And if you lend to those from whom you expect repayment, what credit is that to you? Even sinners lend to sinners, expecting to be repaid in full. But love your enemies, do good to them, and lend to them without expecting to get anything back. Then your reward will be great, and you will be children of the Most High, because he is kind to the ungrateful and wicked. Be merciful, just as our Father is merciful." My call to action for all of us today is this: let's commit to being neighbors who will stand up for each other in justice and truth, who will stand alongside each other in solidarity and prayer, and who will support each other, especially when we feel too weak to stand alone. I love this community from the bottom of my heart, and I believe in each of you and have so much to learn from all of you. I'll be praying for you and your families. Thank you.
Thank you so much, LaToya. That was awesome. Our next speaker is Senator Derek Slapp of the 5th State Senate District, serving over 98,000 citizens from West Hartford and surrounding cities. I know every time that Derek gets up here, he's got great wisdom to share, so I'm excited to hear Derek share that with us today. Derek makes his home in West Hartford. Ladies and gentlemen, Senator Slapp.
Thank you, Heidi. Thank you for your service to our country and our community. Good morning, everyone. I'm just going to adjust. Well, you know what? We'll leave it here. I think it's fortuitous that Veterans Day comes just a week or so after Election Day. We have some healing to do. I think that's true no matter what side of the political equation you're on. I think we can all agree that we have some healing to do. And I think our veterans can help us do that. I was thinking a lot over the last few days about what I was going to say, and many of you who've been to this event before have heard me talk about my family and the history of service in the family, veterans, et cetera, and how it's brought, as an example, my stepfather and father-in-law together, that shared experience. Well, we need more of that. I kept on coming up with one term kind of over and over again. It kept popping in my brain as I was thinking about comments today, and it was e pluribus unum. I think probably most of us know what that means, right? It's out of many, one. How do we get there? when it feels like we are so far from being one. And I know that the example that our veterans have set for us can help. I think can help inspire us when maybe it's tough to get there sometimes. So I do want to read to you some comments from a retired lieutenant general. His name is David Barno. He's now a professor at American University. And he said, as we look across the very divided landscape of America on this Veterans Day, we should all be inspired by the example of selfless service our veterans represent. He goes on to say, military service has always been one of the great levelers of our society. Everyone who enters the U.S. military is forcibly reminded from day one of boot camp or basic training that all the old rules of what makes each of us different or important or privileged in our civilian lives no longer apply. Wealth and position count for nothing. Degree and honors carry no weight. Parentage, ethnic background, religion, most certainly politics, convey no special advantage in a basic training platoon, or for that matter, in an infantry company or a SEAL team. Veterans, perhaps more than most Americans, get the meaning of, here it is, this Latin phrase, inscribed on our currency, e pluribus unum, out of many, one. Every individual in the military is part of a bigger team tasked with accomplishing a mission. Implicit is the understanding that some of those on that mission will result in death or grievous injury from members of the team. He continues, he says, in the aftermath of a world-changing election, we should all draw a bit from that lesson, that there are no tribes of red or blue in the military. Our veterans can help us inspire others as members to be on the members of the same team, America's team, instead of rival tribes incapable of seeing beyond our individual interests or collective national goals that we should all share. We should once again strive to live up to our name, the United States, and help take inspiration from our veterans and their example to guide us to a better future as one nation, of many outlooks, but still one nation. So I think that just begs the question, so what then, right? We should, of course, listen to our veterans, use them as an example, help them guide us, and do whatever we can, even on the smallest level, to connect with our neighbor, to volunteer, to help others, to strengthen our community, to give back, to love people who we don't even know. One by one, we help reinforce and help create that central tenet of e pluribus unum. And we'll get there, and I know our veterans will lead the way. Thank you to our veterans. Thank you for having me here again today, and just so inspired to be with all of you. And again, thank you to the sacrifices our veterans make. We need you now more than ever. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator Slapp. Our Mayor, Sherry Cantor, will now share some words. Sherry is another dynamo that I know. I've seen her do cartwheels down Farmington Avenue during our Memorial Day parade. She's amazing. She also has been serving West Hartford since 2004 when she joined the town council. And she's entering, we decided it's her 9th year. She's in her 9th year already as mayor. So ladies and gentlemen, Mayor Sherry Cantor.
Thank you, Commander. Thank you, Derek, for not raising the microphone. I appreciate that. I first am going to thank a few people that are here today. First, thank all of you for coming together to support this community, to support your veterans, whether it's in your family or a friend, or just your community. I appreciate your being here. It's powerful and it's really important. I want to thank Deputy Mayor Ben Wenograd and my fellow councilors Carol Blanks, Deb Poulin, Tiffany McGinnis, and Barry Walters, who also are here. Of course, you heard from LaToya from the Board of Education. I want to thank Renee McHugh, who is our communications specialist, and she is amazing at pulling so much together. Thank you, Renee, for all your guidance and support. Our town manager, Rick Ledwith, who does so much for our community. I mean, incredible in service for all of us. I also want to recognize Mark Zidanois and as a veteran who also serves on the council. And I think Alberto Cortez is also has served. I know he has served in public safety, but we also have our public safety chiefs here as well. Fire Chief Priest and Police Chief Reddick, our assistant chiefs are here. Thank you so much. I also want to give a heartfelt recognition to, you heard about Ben Cooper, who will be 103 on Christmas Eve. Ben is a dear friend and an inspiration and speaks to all of the values that we need, again, listening and bringing people together, and such powerful optimism in the darkest times of humanity. Thank you, Ben, and thank you to his family for keeping him so strong and vibrant. I also want to thank my fellow speakers. They gave inspirational words. LaToya is a force, and I will say all of the women that have been mentioned or part of the program seem to be 5'3" or under, so that really is very inspiring. And Derek, thank you for your incredible message. You always bring such guidance and support. My grandfather and father are both laid in stone here. Their names are in stone here. My grandfather actually fought in World War I, and my father was a World War II veteran. I currently have a nephew who is in active duty in the Air Force. He's a captain in the Air Force. His sister actually was visiting with us over the weekend, who is a pediatric cardiology nurse. Incredible family, and dedicated to making other lives better. I just want to say that Veterans Day gives us all pause, right? To think about the time. It's a time to remember and think about all of those who served, who actually really committed the biggest selfless act to serve others before themselves. They have stood on the front lines, or they have stood in the back lines, doing all that is necessary to protect our freedoms and values. This year, as you've heard and as you know in your hearts, we observe Veterans Day with new leadership guiding our nation. Leadership transitions remind us of the strength of our democracy, a system built on the values veterans fight for and fought for to protect. We are privileged, but we are not guaranteed to live in a country where freedom, justice, and the rule of law are upheld by a government that changes not through force, but through the will of the people. Today, as we honor our veterans, we also acknowledge the responsibility of our leaders, new and continuing, to support those who served. We owe it to our veterans to ensure they have the resources, the health care, the opportunities they need to thrive. They have given so much. We must strive to be worthy of their sacrifices. As we welcome new leadership, may we be guided by the sense of duty and sacrifice that our veterans embody every day. Let us honor them not only by our words today, but through our actions every day. In times of change, we often look back to the courage and resilience of our veterans to remind us of what's possible. They teach us that courage isn't about the absence of fear, it's about the strength to act in spite of it. They show us that service isn't just a word, it's a lifelong commitment to greater good. It is remarkable how each veteran's military service has such a profound impact on their life, and how their military experiences continue to be a story that endures with them for a lifetime. And you've heard that from Commander Mooney. The importance of a veteran's military experience in their life's history was really brought home to me when recently I visited my dear Uncle Walter, a sweet 96-year-old veteran who lives in a small town in Connecticut. Uncle Walter grew up on an egg farm and eventually became a greatly loved and admired guidance counselor. There was no doubt that his military experience and being a veteran helped him to relate and connect with students of all different backgrounds and all different viewpoints. During the Korean War, Walter was drafted to the U.S. Army and sent to Germany. He was one of 5 boys, worked on a farm, which was really a real hard thing for farmers to lose their sons to service. Eventually, he was able to bring his wife, he was married, and his baby girl. They joined him at the army base in Germany. Like so many seniors of his advanced age, over the last year or so, my uncle has increasingly suffered from advanced dementia, such as that he has trouble remembering recent events, relatives, and friends. And while he did not remember who I was during my visit, remarkably, he remembered events and details of his time in the Army. In fact, for over an hour, we talked about his time as an Army cook, of peeling potatoes, of having his car shipped to Germany, of the joy he experienced when he was able to reunite with his wife and daughter in Germany because he was married. Having to carry and shoot a rifle, even growing up on a farm, he wasn't quite comfortable with that. He talked about how heavy it was. He talked about these stories with a smile on his face, the friends he had made, the connections with people from all over the world, the country that he had made. And he talked with such pride in his voice. My uncle has had a long and wonderful life. He was a politician. He supported people of one particular party, but always could connect and relate to people of all different positions because of his service and military service. He loved music, which also is a uniter. He loved gardening, and he had tremendous love for his family. And while many of his memories and his wonderful life have faded, clearly the memories of his impactful service to our nation are still strongly there in his mind. This story of my uncle is a lesson to all of us about just how important military service is to each and every one of our veterans, how their service molds the rest of their lives and their families' lives. It shapes them forever. I am so thankful to veterans like my uncle, who often gave up on their civilian lives to go put them on hold, packed up, and went to faraway places for the good of our nation. And so, in spite of my uncle's fading memory, he clearly can never forget his military service to our country. With that in mind, it is also up to us to never forget the service that he did and he performed, and all of the rest of our amazing veterans on this day and on every day. And to all our veterans here and across the nation, thank you. Thank you for your service, your sacrifice, your example. Our country is grateful forever. But again, a call to duty. It is important to all of us to uphold the value of their service, to set an example, and to connect with each other and unite. So in my heart, I think about all of those who are actively serving or on duty, and I think about all of those who have served. I think about all of the commitments you have made, your families have made. And I want to say, bless the United States of America and our special community of West Hartford. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mayor Cantor. I want to take a second just to recognize all the veterans that are here and give them a round of applause. And I again want to thank Ben for your inspiration for being here, Ben. And we're happy that you came out. You're always so great to see, and I appreciate you so much. So thank you. Thank you, veterans. The ceremonial laying of a wreath at a graveside or memorial is practiced around the world. Heads of state, U.S. presidents, active military, and veterans lay a wreath of flowers or greenery to honor departed members of the armed forces or society. At this time, we will present a memorial wreath in honor of our brothers and our sisters who are not here with us today. Commanders of the Guard, post colors and call your units to attention. Placing the memorial wreath today are past Post Commander Mo Fredette and retired Navy Judge Advocate James Cayley. both of the American Legion Hayes Village Post 96.
Lauren, rest.
Thank you, Mo and James. I would like to thank our color guard units, the West Hartford Police Color Guard under the command of Lieutenant Matthew La Riviera, and the West Hartford Fire Department Color Guard under the command of Lieutenant Ryan Shea, and the Post 96 Color Guard under the command of Marine Brendan Boyle. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here today in super hot wool uniforms in the very hot heat. I've done that before, and I know it is not easy. I will now invite Lieutenant Colonel Sean Nolan back up to offer the benediction.
Thank you, Commander Mooney. Please join with me once more in prayer. Father in heaven, we give you thanks for the courage and sacrifice of all the men and women who have served in our United States military. We thank you for using them as mighty instruments of your will to protect this great nation that you have blessed. Lord, we add to our prayer a petition for the enemies of our nation, for whom you have directed us to pray. We ask you to steer their hearts and ours away from bitterness, mistrust, and antagonism toward cooperation, unity, and peace. Where there is injury or perceived injury, bring your pardon, Lord, on all sides. You have declared that unless the Lord guard the city, the watchmen keep their watch in vain. We thank you that the selfless and sacrificial service of our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Guardians has not been in vain. We ask you to continue to guard and protect the United States of America, and to keep our warriors, their families, and all human life safe in your wise and loving care. And we ask all of these things in your holy and mighty name. Amen.
If you are not able to serve in the military but want to give back to your community, as you go through the next few days, I want you to think about how you can serve your country, your community, your schools, or your youth. If you are not volunteering your time in some way right now, consider taking up this call and do just that. I call each one of you here today to action, to serve in West Hartford or in the town that you live in. And I thank those of you who already do. Thank you for being here today to honor many of America's heroes that stand among us and have kept our country free. May God bless and protect our service men and women who are in harm's way right now and defending our freedoms at this moment all around the world from acts of terrorism and from wars on foreign soils, and for those that are providing humanitarian efforts for those in need. May God bless their efforts to bring peace, and may God bless the United States of America. Today is an important but symbolic way of saying thank you and remembering the legacy of veterans because of what those women and men have done for us. Saying thank you is an acknowledgement of all the burdens and the scars that veterans may live with every single day of the year. Right now, Zonder Boss, who previously played the violin, is gonna sound taps, and I'm gonna let you guys all quietly head out. But thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you for recognizing the veterans' services. Thank you, Zonder. Color Guard, please call your color guards to attention.
Color guard, out, 10, 2. dismissed.
Now I will speak. We are living in the midst of a Holocaust and do not recognize that babies in the womb have any rights